good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, or whatever it is, wherever you are, and welcome to Diane Writes. This is the show where I talk about writing things, and we write, at least hopefully, some things. So glad to see all of you in the chat already. That's great. Welcome, Secondhand Samurai. Welcome, Danny. Welcome, Darth Nicholas. Welcome, Walking Dead Lover. Welcome, Moonflower. All right. Yes, this is going to be, hopefully this should be fun. Oh, and hello, Bob. Welcome to you, too. All right, I hope everyone's having a good day so far. If I look tired, don't mind me. I am. My sleep is dubious at the best of times. So I feel a little scattered today. So if I start wandering off topic, let me know. Yeah, I've added some new channel point rewards that you guys might want to take a look at. Okay, so Dinosaur Bob had a good suggestion in our game stream the other night. And his suggestion was basically that we should allow the audience to participate by forcing us to re-roll. So it's there. You can get us to re-roll whatever the last roll was, for good or ill. I hope people are more inclined to be good than ill, but it could be fun. Yeah, so it's a thing. There's lots of writing related stuff too. Last time, what was it, Sunday, when I streamed, Rowan suggested that since I have a habit of getting focused on the chat and not writing, that maybe there should be channel point things to force me to write, like write a sentence or write a paragraph. So I include a few things. Right? You can make me do that. You can make me write a sentence, or you can make me write a paragraph. Just drop wherever we are in chat and go, okay, get some writing done, which is good. And you can also demand a writing sprint on the spot. I've given 3 options for that. They're called Less Talk, More Write. And basically, in channel points, they'll cost you what... oh, thanks for the posture check there, Barbarossa. Good to see you. You are here. Yay! It's always good to see you. Yeah, so if you want a writing sprint, you can opt in for an immediate 5, 10, or 15-minute sprint. As soon as I encounter it in the chat, I gotta shut up, and we gotta sprint. So that's how it goes. It's basically 100 points per minute, more or less, is what that'll cost you. So I hope that, yes, Bob, you certainly did, and thank you for that. Bob has sent me a manuscript to critique. I was going to ask if you wanted me to do it on air. And so great, we'll do that. That's awesome, because that'll give me an opportunity to illustrate how to do and how not to do a critique. Right? I hope you guys are not lagging as much as my screen appears to be. I'm hoping that it's just my video card having a moment, right? But let me know if you are. Things have been kind of weird since Windows' latest update. Awesome. Great. Thanks, Bob. That's amazing. I'm good on video. Audio's okay. Okay. Or, yeah. Let me know if there's any problems. Okay, I gotta open up my Discord again here for a minute to make sure that I get Bob's manuscript link. So if things go for a moment, don't worry, they'll straighten out in a second. All right. So while that is firing up, hopefully I can talk about what is a good critique and what isn't, right? Be gentle, it's my first time. That's the first principle I would like to emphasize when giving a critique, by the way, right? Be gentle, right? Don't okay, your purpose when you're doing a critique is to help another writer be a better writer, right? That's the purpose. So anything that doesn't facilitate that is not going to be helpful. So it's important not to be too harsh, especially when people are newer writers, because then they can get really discouraged. Yeah, Danny says, be gentle and serve up sandwiches. Yes. Do not just dip the whole manuscript into red ink. I've had that happen, and it frickin' sucks. What is going on with Discord here? Oh, okay, jeez. Took forever. All right, so I'll go, okay, good. I see you there with your message, and I will put that up so that it is available. Yes, Discord. I'm okay about the link. All right, and we will start. Okay, it says this is these are locked, so I better check and make sure that I can access them. I shall not pass, Bob. They, I think you've set them to private, and I cannot read them, which is unfortunate. So we'll figure that out. Yeah, Barbarossa says, I had a manuscript given to an editor friend and I got it back about a week later with almost every page covered in red ink and outlines and comments on it that were less than favorable but had no critique on how to fix it. Okay, that person is failing at their job, both as an editor and as a critique partner. Okay, yeah, actually, maybe I'd better start with, yeah, no worries, Bob. Maybe I'd better start with the fact that a critique and an edit are not the same thing, right? When you're offering a critique, you're offering feedback. It is not your job to polish the thing to perfection. That's an editor's job, right? So, editors usually should be professionals, right? If they're not making a living as an editor, or at least moonlighting as one and making some money as their side hustle, right, they should at least be a writer, because they should understand the craft of writing. They should be good at grammar, right? They should have hopefully some references. People should have gotten work done by them before, right? And even then, you may not get along, so they should offer a sample edit, right? A sample edit will usually be about 1 page, maybe 500 words, something like that, so that you get a feel for their style. Try to look for somebody who does your genre. I have a friend who is in my local critique group who's part of my NaNoWriMo group, and she's an editor, and she's amazing. But she doesn't write my genre. She doesn't get what I'm trying to do. She keeps trying to make me into literary fiction, and that didn't work out very well, right? I'm not angry about it. It just wasn't a good fit, right? And not everybody's going to be a good fit, even if they're a good editor. Yeah, so it's the editor's job to polish. The critique partner is here to offer helpful feedback, make some suggestions to correction, tell you especially where things aren't working for whatever reason, right? So, and also to tell you where they are. That's equally important, because, like Barbarossa said, if you don't know how to fix things, right? If you don't know what's working, how can you know what's not working, right? So you have to do both. It's important to do both. Okay, Master Lauren, hello, good to see you, says, but the writer also needs to be accepting of the criticism and not fall in love with their world. Many times writers fail at this. This is a very good point. Listen, everybody's baby is ugly. We discussed that last time, right? You notice that people were rightfully critiquing some of the ways I had put things and making good suggestions, which I took, right? You can't okay, a writer's job or an editor's job and a critique partner's job is to make your writing better, right? So as long as you trust that they are doing that, right, or trying to do that, you should not be afraid. Like, don't take criticism as a personal attack. You're not Hemingway. You're not William Shakespeare. You're not going to puke out a magically perfect book the first time you put it down on a piece of paper. It's a craft. It's a skill. It requires refining. You're gonna have to polish the gem, and accept that it's okay, right? Sometimes those critiques are even significant ones, and the only exception to, I'd say, keep an open mind when receiving a critique or an edit, but don't let your brain fall out, right? If you know instinctively that what someone is saying is wrong for your world and your book, then don't do it. But give it some thought, give it some real consideration, right? Don't just go, oh, they didn't love it because I just put it down on paper on hand. Wah! Right? I have run into so many people like that in the indie writing community. There are many reasons to self-publish. Many of them are good, very good, right? That sounded like a Trump way of saying things. I apologize, but okay. No, many of them are really good reasons, right? There's lots of. I'm an advocate for independent writing, but one of those reasons that is not good is that people can't handle criticism, and you're going to get egg on your face if you can't. Right? This is all to help you before you put your stuff out there in the world, because readers on Amazon and Goodreads do not give a damn, right? They do not care about you. They do not care about breaking your heart. They're not interested, and even the best book is not going to appeal to everybody, right? Some of them are quite cruel, and wouldn't you rather get the criticism before you put it out in the world? That would be, I would, right? But I'm the kind of person who's like, if I ask the hubby, do these pants make me look fat? I want an honest answer because I don't want to wear them outside if they do. It might be that I'm getting fat. It might be that just these are bad kind of pants for me, you know? And thank you for the follow, Mini Guido. Welcome. All right, briefly trying to catch up here. Discord being a bit weird for the past few days. Took 2 separate starts to allow me to receive pings. Yeah, I saw that. It just made me log back in again and didn't save my password for some reason. I don't know why. Yep, I agree with Danny completely, Barbarossa. Finding that out means you can toss the whole of that feedback out. Yep, just don't even bother. If there's no suggestions on how to fix it, take the whole red written copy and toss it right in the recycling bin and don't worry about it. Absolutely. Or give me one more sec, says Bob. I got lots of time. We're here for 3 hours. Don't rush. Yep, Danny agreeing with Master Lauren that in cases like that, the writer may not be ready for critique. And that's okay too. Maybe you're not, right? Maybe you're a brand new writer and you decided, I always wanted to write a book. I'm going to give it a try. And the last time you wrote was high school. And because somebody made you do it in an essay, right? You're going to need some polishing before you're going to be ready for critique, and it's okay, right? Take your time. Or maybe you're not going to publish it for the public, right? Maybe you're just going to put it out for yourself and your friends. If that's the case, and that's perfectly valid. There's no reason not to worry about that. But even if you're going to publish it for free, like say on fanfiction.net or Wattpad, or, make it available to the public on World Anvil manuscripts, right? You're going to want somebody to have a look at it before you put it out there, because otherwise somebody is going to rip you a new one, right? They're just going to tear you up. And because they don't care about you, they don't know you, they don't understand how writing works, they don't know how much of your heart you've had to pour into it, and all they want is to be entertained, right? And so yeah, they're not nice. So you don't want that, right? You want to have something that's kind of ready before you put it out to the world, right? So find some friends that will support you, right? Anvilite writers Anvilites are pretty good at being supportive. There's also a conversation that goes on at the Twitch Writers Network Discord, right? There are people out there who will be happy to give you feedback, and they care because they expect you're probably going to critique them at some point, right? Songbird is here. Hello, welcome. My eyes are blurry today. Barbarossa says, I do not want to be Hemingway. I hear that you had a serious alcohol problem. Yes, he did. That was, he's part of the reason why the alcoholic writer is a trope. Yeah. And also, he's a brilliant writer, in my opinion. He really is. And he's also very full of toxic masculinity, right? So, some people love him, some people hate him. Why are my eyes not working today? Okay. I'm still going to use, these are progressive lenses, and they're brand new, so I'm still going, which part is the part that lets me, okay, there we go. Capron says, everybody's baby is ugly. I just choked on my tea. That's the best advice I ever heard. Yeah, they are. Bob says, can I see it now? The first chapter was private. I will double check, because that is important. Yes, I can see it now. We are good, Bob. We're ready to go. Yeah, Walking Dead Lover says, that pants thing reminds me of a video of a pregnant woman asking her husband if she looked fat, and he kept saying she looked pregnant. In the end, she deadpanned him and said, so I look fat. It was hilarious since the husband kept sinking himself further and further into a hole. Yeah. You know, to be fair, there's a difference. You know? But, okay. I've done that. Bob. I accidentally rearranged the order. It's because you accidentally dragged something. You had the mouse clicked and didn't realize it for like a second, and it's very sensitive. I tend to do this on my mobile phone when I'm trying to edit articles in my world all the time. I like that it's sensitive, but yeah, sometimes I go back to my PC and I'm like, what the hell just happened here? So Moonflower says, I put first drafts of fan fiction on AO3, clearly labeled as such, to document my progress as a writer, but trust me when I say any and all critique on most things is tossed out. I think the only critique I took was from someone I knew about chapter length and pacing. If somebody is talking about pacing, they probably know enough about the craft you should pay attention, at least somewhat, to what they have to say, right? Because if you're talking about that, you're an experienced writer, reasonably so, right? You still might not agree with them, but right? And beware that when you put your stuff out into the community, there is also the double standard jerk factor, right? I don't know. I'm not. My camera. Aaron knocked over my camera when he was last streaming, so I had to readjust it completely. It's not right, but okay. There are people. If you are a girl and your name is feminine, then no matter what you write, there will be some man somewhere who will tell you you suck. And if they don't do that, they will patronize you, right? Learn to brush it off, right? Unless the person's in front of you. Some rando on the internet, who cares, right? And it will happen, right? As a matter of fact, uh, writing that is written by women, and it is obviously written by women, is less likely to get published, less likely to get critically reviewed, and likely to be treated with patronization or dismissed as young adult, even if it isn't, by professional reviewers. Right? So if professional people will do that, you can imagine what the general public will do. There's always one, right? Same is true if you're a person of color. Same is true if you are LGBTQ and you make that clear, right? There will always be somebody who will come in to rain on your parade, right? So, you know, it bothers me. I can't say it doesn't because I am offended by it, but at the same time, I don't really care what some rando on the internet thinks of me, you know? So there's some advice. Highlight my message. Walking Dead Lover says, I read the first few pages of Weird West and my first reaction was like, damn, someone is already dying. I like it. Give me more. Well, thank you. I'm glad that got your attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of it as much. That's really cool. And thank you for buying it, by the way. That's really, really awesome of you. Yeah, that's great. Moonflower says, yup, I've gotten people like that. I just delete the comments. Writer Greg is here. Hello. Good to see you. Yay! Yes. So yeah. So things to be aware of. Okay. So, an edit is meant to polish your work for sale, basically, or public availability. A critique is kind of like it's advice in progress, so that you can make changes that are necessary. Oh, I heard dings. what happened with things. Ah, yes, we're being rated. Hello, Annazelle, nice to see you. Welcome. Yay, welcome raiders. Cool. Very cool. Awesome. How are you guys doing? I hope you had a good stream, Annazelle. Woot. Right. Okay. So yeah, a critique is like, help in progress. And you don't have to be a professional to give a good critique. That's not necessary. Remember how I was saying, well, NSL's group won't know, but I was saying that editors should be a professional. They're trying to polish your work for sale or public presentation. They should know something about the craft of writing. So they should either be, a semi-professional editor or moonlighting at it, or they should at least be a writer, right? Um, Maybe author would be a better word than writer. They should have something out there, right? Because if possible, because then they've been through the ringer already. They know what people think of as, a standard of writing. Okay, your buddy from high school doesn't know that, right? So you should never let your buddy from high school edit. And not all writers make good editors. It's a very different craft. I have gotten very poor edits, right, from some really good writers. So I'm going to try to mess with my camera here because I don't like the fact that it keeps cutting off my chin. There we go. That's better. Okay. So critique is to help you make a work in progress. People don't have to be professionals to critique you. This is why people talk about beta readers, right? Beta readers are the people, usually when you write things, you have a couple people you run stuff by. I tend to run stuff by my hubby, right? And I'm like, what do you think of this? And he's like, oh, no, that's good or whatever. Greg says, I would love feedback on the critiques that I've provided on summer camp streams. How can I provide better information during article showcases? I think Greg does an amazing job of critique, by the way, right? He does all the things right, and I'm going to tell you why as we do the course of this, because yeah, he's cool, right? Remembering that the guiding principle is you're trying to help this person be better. Right. So a writer never knows whether or not what they have in their head came out on the paper the way they thought it should. There are always things that you miss. There's stuff that was very clear to you when you imagined it, and then you put it down, but you didn't successfully communicate it to the reader. So that's the first thing a critique should be looking for. Is there anything that's confusing? Is there anything I don't understand? Is there anything that I'm like, I feel like I missed something, right? That's a very important thing to note. And I advise not to think of it in terms of, do I think other people would miss this? The question is, did I miss it? I find that often people underestimate the intelligence of their readers. Readers are smart, especially in the genres that we tend to write on World Landful: science fiction, fantasy, historical fiction, thrillers, right? Readers are smart. They're used to figuring things out. They kind of like a little mystery, right? So you don't have to over explain everything. Right? And when you're critiquing somebody else, you shouldn't think they have to either, right? So that's the first thing, right? The other thing you should be looking out for is, does anything bore me, right? That's just where we're going to talk about pacing, right? Pacing is how quickly and how intensely is the story progressing. And the fact is, it will likely bog, right? At places. There's two types of writers, right? Overwriters, underwriters. If you have trouble making the word count when you have an assignment that says, okay, it has to be 1,500 words, you're probably an underwriter. And that means that your critique partners should be looking for, information that you've missed, things that maybe sound a little flat in your characters because you haven't used enough description to communicate how things feel, right? Stuff like that, right? If you're an overwriter, The big area you're going to find problems in, like me, is pacing. Sometimes I provide too much information that the reader does not require, and it just bogs down the details, right? So that's something I like my critique partners to be especially um, looking for, right? Also, when you're first doing a critique, ask the person you're critiquing what it is they're looking for you to critique. They may have specific areas. Like, I will always tell people who are critiquing me, okay, yeah, pacing, right, is a problem sometimes, right? I overwrite. Um, Adverbs, I sometimes overuse them, right? Occasionally dialogue tags. I mean, that gets into some editing issues, right? So that depends on who I'm talking to. I would ask another writer to look for that stuff, adverbs, dialogue tags. I would not ask, um, let's see, one of my beta readers who is not a writer, Chris. I would not ask Chris to look for dialogue tags for me, right? What I want to know is, did Chris enjoy the story, right? And since Chris is also a Navy, he's a sailor, right? I would also like to know if I'm writing anything nautical and military related, which I am with the Toy Soldier Saga. Did I screw it up, right? Did I get something wrong? Is this not the way it works? And I want him to tell me that, right? So, yeah, what are people looking for? So that's establish that with the person that you're critiquing, right? Often you'll get newer writers coming in here. It happens a lot in the writing channel on the World Anvil Discord. You get a question with a passage, and then people are asked, what do you think of this? I don't know. That depends on what you're looking for, right? If is it just a general, do I like it? Okay, I can tell you that, and I can tell you why or why not, right? Is it, do you think this idea makes sense? You know? And sometimes people just want encouragement too, right? And if someone just wants encouragement, then concentrate on the things you liked and don't emphasize the things you didn't like. Point out things you think will be like redlining emergencies then, right? But don't dwell on minor things like grammar that can come out in the edit, right? Don't dwell on, whether the character in book, chapter 4 changed their eye color from chapter 1, right? That's not important. What's important is, do I like the story, right? And that's what the people who are looking for encouragement are looking for. And gently, how can I improve it, right? Okay. Moonflower says, you critique really well, just a bit too much focus on style, which was very slightly overwhelming with summer camp in particular. And E-Song says, I have a hard time uh, turning off of grammar and not, yeah. And yeah, I get that's hard, right? But that's the editor's job. That's not the critique person's job. Not unless it's something that they repeat and is extreme, right? Like, um, yeah, yeah, I think that's probably a good way of putting it, right? And yes, style is important, but that depends on what level you're at as a writer. I tend to agree that in summer camp articles, what we're trying to do is kind of blurt out enough words on the page so people are looking for a concept and does this make sense? But to be fair, right, if that's what you're looking for, you can also be proactive and tell the person who's doing your critiques that that's what you're looking for, right? So, you can say, don't worry about style right now. I'll clean it up later, right? So it's a matter of communication. Good communication is very important, right? Like in a relationship. Danny said, that's one reason I didn't critique during summer camp. I ask a lot of questions because people want different levels and focuses of critique, or just a beta read for a nod they're on the right track. Yes, you kind of need to narrow that down. The more questions you ask, the more efficient you can be at your critique. So there's nothing wrong with, asking a few questions for clarification, right? Esong says, question, how do you find what the person is looking for in a stream? I would ask outright. I've got a an edit critique option as part of the channel points. So this is something that I intend to, I intend to do, right? So if you bring me something, you ask me to critique it, I'm going to start by asking, um, okay, actually, I'm going to say, what is it specifically that you're looking for me to critique? Is it, do you want me to get into grammar? Are you interested in style and pacing? Do you just want to know if the idea works, right? Are you just looking for some, encouraging feedback, right? And I don't think it takes that long to have that basic discussion in a stream. Now, granted, my stream critiques are probably overall not going to be as good as the ones that you give over time, right? If you have an unlimited time to do it in, but I think I can do a decent job, right? But to answer that question too, the second thing you do is you look at what you're given, right? And different people are at different levels, right? So a less experienced writer, you'll be able to see it right away. And you'll be able to go, okay, if I start talking to this person about pacing and style, they're going to be lost and confused and maybe discouraged. So I'm not going to waste their time or mine on that right now, right? What I'm going to do is talk to them about things like point of view, right? Like a newbie mistake tends to be to head hop, right? Go from one character to another without changing the scene, right? And that's generally just confusing for your reader. There are ways to do it. I've done it, right? But it's hard, right? Also, okay, actually, if you're looking for that, by the way, a very good example, the best I've ever seen for different ways to change point of view and perspective is Mad Adam, the third book in the trilogy by Margaret Atwood, right? Which she goes into, I think it's Mad Adam. It could be, wait a minute. Is it Mad Adam or is it uh, the second book? What was the books? There was Oryx and Crake, there was. Uh, Hell and Damnation. I don't remember. Okay. Um. Okay, yeah, I think it was Mad Adam. But in that book, she has two point of view characters, right? And well, three actually. She has three point of view characters. One she writes in the first person, personal, and a very immediate tense, right? Second one she writes in the second person, and it's still personal. It's like, yeah, it's like a second person perspective, someone observing them from the outside, right? And the third one she writes in a third person, personal, with a more distant tense. And I've never seen anybody succeed at it like she does. And like, this is a thing where your English teacher would tell you never to do this as it is impossible. Yeah, unless you're Margaret Atwood, right? So you want to learn how to do that, read it, right? Oh, posture check. Thank you, Jokes. Hello, nice to see you. Um, okay. NSL says, I will apologize for anyone reading my stuff. My dyslexia usually means it takes a lot of cleanup. Yeah, that's fair. And, let your critique partner know that. I have dyslexia. I mix things up, right? And then tell them whether or not you want to help cleaning that up. Thank you for the hydrate check, Barbarossa. I only have pop today. I have nothing else in the house but pop and coffee, but I will drink the pop. All right. So E-Song says, I find that many people don't know what they're looking for or think they're looking for one thing and then end up wanting something else. That's true. So if that happens, you can only do the best you can, right? So in that case, I would start with, okay, am I on the right track here? Is this the kind of thing you're looking for? Interrupt yourself after you've started a few like a couple of minutes into it and go, okay, how am I doing here? Is this what you were after? You know, um, and people who don't know what they're looking for at all and give you no direction, then just do it, right? Because you can't be expected to read their mind and you can only do the best you can, right? So, yes. Master Lauren says, I wrote summer camp like I do in NaNoWriMo, less about accuracy and more about getting the ideas down. I can edit and refine later. True enough. And the more time goes on and the more experienced you are as a writer, the better you will be at just kind of incorporating style. But it won't matter. Your first draft will still be ugly, right? Dinosaur Bob says, okay, so for me, is it interesting? And I consciously kept it short. So what am I missing? Thank you. That's very helpful, right? Oh, and the title sucks and needs to be changed. I'm not concerned about the title. Jokes is peering your head in. I love that. Label out sponsorship. Not till they pay me. They get no label until they pay me. I doubt the Coca-Cola is ever going to sponsor me. I'm a writing stream, but you never know. I don't. I'm always crap with titles. I'm not worried about your title, right? So it's cool. And that's another thing too, right? When you are offering to critique someone else, tell them about, I'm not. Unless you want me to look at your title, I won't, right? Because it doesn't matter at this stage. We're still in draft, right? So you might change your title 7 or 8 times before you put it out there, and then you might decide to traditionally publish it, and your publisher might change it again, right? So don't sweat it, right? Okay, so when you start, what you should do is do a cursory read over and just kind of get a feel on the flow, if you can. We will not be able to do this in a stream, right? Because we generally don't have enough time to read it twice, right? But when you're reading it for yourself, you should skim it over first and just kind of get a general feel of where things are going. That way you don't end up critiquing something that is later explained. I've done that a lot, right? Where I'm just kind of reading it and I run into something, I'm like, okay, I think this needs more explanation. And then I get to 3/4 of the way through and I'm like, okay, you explained it. All right. And I wouldn't have wasted time mentioning that needs to be explained if I read it through and known it. But okay, so we can't do that on the stream. Be aware of that, right? Whether you're giving or taking the critique. So start with, when you're giving the beginning of the feedback, what you like. Because people like to hear encouragement and people need encouragement, right? So tell them about, your initial impression and something favorable about that first impression. And there is always something favorable. There is never anything that is complete and utter garbage. If you run into something where you find it is complete and utter garbage, then you probably say, I just don't think this is for me, right? It's not what I prefer, right? So, okay, examples. I have read a lot of Philip K. Dick books. I have read a lot of them because I am reading a list called SF Masterworks, which is a label that published classic science fiction novels that are, many of which are otherwise out of print, that really influenced the genre. So this forces me to read things, because I've determined to read it, that I don't necessarily like. And in general, I think that Philip K. Dick is horrible. I absolutely hate his writing. It feels like going through somebody's dirty sock pile, right? Where they've been using it for nocturnal activities, along with the girly mags under the bed. This is how I feel when I'm reading Philip K. Dick, because, in my opinion, he is horribly misogynist. It oozes through everything he writes. He also has a very cynical view of human beings that I don't share, right? And I find it really, really hard, right? So if I read something like that from somebody else, I would say, I don't think this is for me. Millions of people like Philip K. Dick books. He's one of the most commonly turned to film science fiction writers. Literary critics seem to think he's amazing. I don't understand them at all, right? So, yeah, maybe it's just not for you, right? Okay, so we're going to start with that. We're going to start with the overview and positivity, right? Now, when you're doing it in a stream like this, you can't do the overview, right? So we're going to go as we go. I'm going to try to point out things that I like and things that I dislike. Keep in mind that a lot of people respond much better to uh, honey than vinegar, right? So you shouldn't not tell people about things that don't work, because you are not doing them any favors if you don't. Sooner or later, somebody else who does not care about them is going to take them apart online somewhere, right? Or in a magazine, which would be even worse, right? So you have to tell them. But there's a good way and a bad way to do it, right? There's a way that encourages tact. And if they're a newer writer and they're just kind of looking for, okay, you know, um, is there hope for my writing somewhere? Am I on the right track? You know, there's been a lot of newer writers in the summer camp streams, right? They don't need to hear as harsh a criticism, because they're more vulnerable and you could more easily crush their dreams, and you never ever want to do that. And last, by the way, always end with something positive, right? Because the last thing you heard is the thing that's most likely to stick with you. So, and we so much more easily as humans remember the hurts than the beautiful, soothing things, right? So, serving sandwiches, says Danny. Esong says, taking notes. 1, overview and positivity. Okay, absolutely. Um, yeah, if you are taking notes, Esong, and if you think it might be helpful to the community, I'm happy to make that available out there publicly, right? Or even maybe to highlight the particular portion of the stream if you guys find this helpful later, and, keep it up somewhere that people can watch it, because, hey, we're here to help each other, right? That's what the community is all about. All right, so this is by Dinosaur Bob O'Brien, at the university. And I'm just going to start reading, and I'm going to start critiquing as I go, because this is a stream. Carol Dagomir, looked over my shoulder, taking what I knew would be my last look at the Endmere University of Arcane Arts. Unimaginative asses, all of them, I thought, as I adjusted the pack on my back and started down the street towards the east gate of the city. Question, Bob, are you looking for grammar critiques and punctuation? That's technically part of editing more than it is part of critiquing, but I'm here and I'm willing to do it. Waiting for my window to adjust. I hope the stream didn't go down here. Okay. Compliment, critique, compliment. Yes. Thank you, Danny. Yes, that's exactly it. Compliment, critique, compliment, always end with compliment. And not just compliment to compliment, but finding a genuine strength the writer can lean on in future work. 100% agree with you. Don't blow smoke up anybody's butt either, right? Tell them they're good. Okay, good, I'm still here. Bob says, yeah, why not? So, minor grammar. Joke says, I suck at compliments, so I often say nothing. Yeah, ability to give a compliment is a skill too. Okay. Yeah, minor grammar thing. The comma here should be inside the quotation mark at the end of all of them. It's really minor. I thought, as I adjusted the pack on my back and started down the street toward the east gate of the city. Apparently, while the masters of the university had no qualms using the corpses obtained for research purposes to teach students of the necromantic arts how to animate corpses, they balked at the thought of even trying to instill these empty shells with enough consciousness to be useful. This was a challenge I had been thinking about for 6 years, since I arrived at the university and saw the mindless ones sweeping hallways in the library corridors. Okay, this is your very first paragraph. This is the most important part of your book, right? Why? Because you have to hook the reader right away. You should provide a mystery and a sense of the situation and a hook to keep people going. Now, Bob, you've done that. This is good stuff, because I find myself going, Okay, what is the University of Arcane Arts? Why are they asses who are unimaginative, right? And that tells me, okay, either my character, my protagonist, your protagonist here, Carol Dagamere, is either an arrogant and self-centered person who thinks they are smarter than everybody else in the room, which is cool, you know. You can have flawed protagonists, and their development as characters is important, right? Oh, thank you for the host, World Anvil. Awesome, thank you. That's really appreciated. Right, so you can have that, and then I will expect that the character arc is likely to involve him or her, which I don't know yet by the name, uh, be confronted with that in some way. And likely the conflict of the story is going to center in that, right? So cool. Now I have some idea of how this will go, and I can decide, is that something I'm interested in reading? Yes, it is. Right? So that's cool. Right? And then for some reason, necromancy's fine in this world, but we don't want to give the corpses any sense of consciousness. One wonders if there's a reason why. I suspect that it probably has something to do with uh, corrupting the spirit or the soul of the would-be undead, as it were. And I am interested to find out. I also expect that likely Carol is going to run into a problem because he or she or they is going to try to do that. And this is probably where our story is going to be, or at least part of it. So these are good hooks. I am curious. I want to know more. Right. Barbarossa says, how do you feel about non-traditional descriptors to invoke a fantastical feeling, such as the vibrant emerald waves shimmered in the low sun? That's a very good question, and that has to do with a matter of genre writing. Now, I read something, and I wish I could quote it where it was, right? But I read something once about the difference between genre and literary readers. They read things differently, right? If you made that comment, a person who's used to literary fiction or, common popular fiction would go, what do you mean vibrant emerald waves? What is that, a metaphor? What is that supposed to represent? Right? And they would make that assumption, right? A genre reader will assume you literally mean vibrant emerald waves, so they are waves of emerald color, and you will explain why they exist, right? So it really depends, right? If you nest it in a bunch of other similar things, you'll give us a real kind of synesthetic feel, which Alice in Wonderland does very well, right? But if you don't, then it may confuse people because we will look for it literally, right? So there's my thought on that. Okay, back to our critique. How am I doing so far, Bob? Am I off to a good start here? Let's start with that. And I'm sorry, I gotta drink something. Frame of reference, in other words. Without it, it confuses people, says Master Lauren. Exactly. I'm dead on? Awesome. Okay. Now, the two most important things you want to accomplish as a writer, everything else, in my personal opinion, is absolutely, totally secondary to that, right? Do I care about the fate of the characters you're discussing? Do I want to keep reading? Right? That's it. Everything else is, you know, dust. It's details, right? Those are the most important things. If you are accomplishing those things, your work will be a success, right? And it won't matter whether or not your style is perfect or whether you have mixed metaphors, right? Those are the two most important things. Okay, so far Bob's got me. I'm interested. I want to know more about this character. I want to know more about this world, right? I want to know, you know, ooh, this is interesting. Apparently, necromancy is utilized, and with reasonable commonality, right? Excuse me, but not but there are taboos, right? Okay. My instructors claimed that attempting to reawaken the mind of the dead was immoral, against the will of the gods. Okay, now we know why there's a taboo. This coming from the same instructors that gleefully teach us to crush the bones of a living being from within, to choke the life out of a victim from across a room. They talk about immortality? I spat onto the street as I recalled their hypocrisy. That's interesting too. That tells me that possibly our protagonist here is also somewhat of an atheist. He doesn't really believe in the gods as they exist in this world or as other people believe in. And he personally, or he, I say he, but it could be he, she, or they, we still don't know, and that's fine, right? I'll say they as a general pronoun until I know otherwise, right? I think I'm assuming he because I know Bob is a he, right? So more commonly than not, we tend to write protagonists of our own gender, right? There are exceptions, but I will say they, right? They don't really believe in the gods, and others do. Now, the question remains whether or not the gods exist in this world, if they're literal or figurative. How much do they care about what goes on among people? Is there a reason other than the gods say no for the taboo, right? Um, so I like that. Now we have more mysteries. And they've been doled out in a breadcrumb fashion, right? One's left, and I pick it up and I eat it, and now I see the next one, and now I'm being led into the forest. Awesome. Okay, I should have been preparing my elixirs for the first test of the process. I had been working on these formulae in secret for the past 2 years. Countless hours were spent poring over tomes ancient and new in the library of the Necromantic Arts School. I Library of the Necromantic Arts School. I think that you don't need all that. And probably they don't need to be capitalized. I would, let's see here. I already know it's the Enmere University of Arcane Arts. You probably just could say um, the Necromantic Library or the university library, something like that, and accomplish the same purpose. This feels unwieldy. I don't think people would really think like that. And I recognize this is prose, but it is a first person personal point of view. So, in a way, you want your prose to echo the way the character thinks, right? So, that's my thoughts on that. Okay, it is a he, but it doesn't matter, and I picked the name to be ambiguous. Lose the school in caps. Got it. Okay. All right. So now that I know it's he, I'll continue with that, but fair enough. Um, yeah. Still more time was spent in deep discussions with the mutagenic practitioners of alchemy, always careful to keep the details of my plan secret. I like that phrase, mutagenic practitioners of alchemy. One wonders if it's literal or figurative, right? Are they mutagenic themselves? Or is it just that they do mutagenic things? Does it imply that the study of alchemy has an effect on your personality and makes you kind of chimera, like a chameleon, right? And a social chameleon. I don't know. So that's interesting. Draws me in. This is good stuff. I like prose that has layers, right? And you are doing some really good stuff with layering here. The fact that I wonder if this is figurative or literal is excellent. Okay. Um, Careful to keep the details of my plan secret. Oh, now we have another breadcrumb. Excellent. We have a plan. Our protagonist has a plan, and he's going to get himself in trouble with this plan. Right? I could not sleep, at least not restfully. He's nervous about the plan. Even in my dreams, I saw possibilities, things to try, avenues of research to explore. But he's also excited about the plan. I'm getting Doc Frankenstein vibes here. This is good stuff. Yeah. By the way, excellent book. Uh-oh. Sorry, my screen's being slow again. Okay. Layers, says E-Song. Yes, 100%. I'm a big enthusiast about the layers. Okay. I remember my determination as my desire coalesced into a concept, and my joy as that concept sharpened into a plan. Let me see here, just a second. I think there's a tense thing here. Looked over my shoulder, taking a last view. So we're not writing in present tense. So I remembered instead of remember here. Okay. Concept sharpened into a plan. I was sure I would produce what I sought. An undead servant capable of comprehending more than one or two simple commands. A servant that would actually be useful. I had even envisioned demonstrating my theory with those short-sighted instructors at my side. I took glee in imagining their gasps of amazement as my creation responded as a thinking being would. Yep, fair enough. He's got his plan. Now we know for a fact he does think he's smarter than his professors, and that they are too limited. Perhaps he thinks of them as old fuddy-duddies who are stuck in tradition. Definitely getting Dr. Frankenstein vibes now, and some Faustian sort of vibes. There's a wealth of literary tradition that you're drawing upon here, and you're plugging into the myth, and it's good. Right? Instead, I was walking through the east gate of Enmere, headed deeper into the frontier lands. Oh, now we have frontier lands. What are frontier lands? Why are they frontier? To find some town, some village, quiet enough and remote enough to allow me to finish my experimentation in peace. Aha! So we're going out into the woods. Okay, so yeah, totally. Have you read Frankenstein? You should read it. Okay. This is good. No, it's really good. I keep saying that. And some people would be like, what, this isn't a completely original idea, I will tear it up and start over. No, there is no such thing as a completely original idea, right? It doesn't exist. There are only 6 great plots, right? So it's how you tell it, right? And you're telling it well, right? You are drawing upon Frankenstein, well, okay, or more properly called, I think it's Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus, right? Is generally regarded to be the document of science fiction as we understand it. And the reason why is because it's about the conflict of technology, and without the technology, the story does not exist. It's about the feeling of the time where people were beginning to question the religions that they had been taught, right? And whether or because science was starting to bring some of the things that people had believed as lore into potential conflict, right? So they were, they were confused, and there was a lot of angst and concern and existential fear around that. And we still have all of that, right? We live in an age now where, here we are in the age of nuclear power, right? We had the Fukushima disaster a couple years ago. There's some of us around who are still old enough to remember the Chernobyl disaster, right? We realize that technology is great power, and with great power comes great responsibility. But technology also cannot solve everything and cannot answer every mystery. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, and it seems that our best technology is still not doing as good of a job as socially isolate, put a mask on, wash your hands, right? Now, I realize this is a story about magic. It is fantasy, but it codes as science fiction because it deals with that conflict, right? The necromancy could be viewed as a technology, right? If magic exists in your world, magic is a natural law. Applying it in a practical way is a technology. So it's totally got all those shades of all of that. And I'm interested. I always want to hear more about that story, largely because I share those existential concerns, right? So good stuff. Okay. Yes, everything to last paragraph should be in past tense. Yes, of course he has, because he's awesome. Lots of people have seen movies and never actually read the book, right? And Yeah. They don't hold to the book. The one that came closest and it still had its own subplots was the one that appeared, that I've seen anyway, in the 90s, right? About the time that Bram Stoker's Dracula was possible or was popular and all that stuff. There's a bunch of them that came on all at once, right? And it had this whole romantic subplot that didn't exist in the actual novel, but it captured that feel of the confusion, right, between technology and and the soul. Right? Hello, Q. Welcome. Nice to see you. Always happy to see Q. Yay! I hope you had a good stream. I'm sorry I did not see it. Barbarossa says, I mean, I'm basically basing my world off of On Stranger Tides by Timothy Powers. Nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's all in how you do it. Yeah, there's somebody else. You said hi. Oh, I see everything exploded because the raid. This is awesome. Roar! Oh no, oh no. That's great. Hello, everyone. Yeah. Hello, Sarukis. Hello, Mergendor. Almost invariably, books are better than movies, says Mergendor. I almost invariably agree if the book was written first. If it's a, dramatization based on the screenplay, watch the movie. That's generally my advice. Moonflower says, I'm still trying to read a lot of the most classic pieces of literature, but my library almost never has the books available at the time I look. Okay, I got something for you. Let's see if I can find it here. I'll put up the border here temporarily. Where is it? Gutenberg Project. Yes. Okay. If it is in the public domain, you can go here and you will almost certainly find any of the classics that you want to read. Because almost all of them are in the public domain, and that's one of the reasons why they're classics. If it's in the public domain, the Gutenberg Project is trying to preserve it, right? So, it's got a search function, right? It's all online on the page, so you have to read it on your device. But I think we're all used to that by now, right? So, you are quite welcome, Moonflower. Yeah, Master Lawrence says Bridges of Madison County is about the only movie where it was better than the book. I have neither read nor seen it, so I can't give my opinion, but I will take your word for it. Moonflower says, I'm lucky enough that I finally got a hold of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien, and Aegon is here and hosting, thank you, and Roll Society is also hosting, thank you so much. Welcome. What are we doing today? We are critiquing Dinosaur Bob's story, and we are giving advice on how to do a good critique, Dealian. Yeah, so nice to see you too, by the way. Right, just to recap then, since we just had, thank you for the hydrate. Next time I'm going to have to go get another drink. Okay, okay, just to recap, when you're giving your critique, your purpose is not necessarily to edit, right? It's to offer an opinion on what's working and what isn't. Your purpose is to help the writer, so do not tear them apart, thinking that you are doing them a favor. You're not. On the other hand, you can't ignore the things that you know aren't working, because that does them no favors either, because somebody in public will tear them apart, right? So you need to deliver your criticisms gently and always, but also concentrate on things that are working. Often people respond better to positive feedback than negative feedback. I know I certainly do. If you tell me something isn't working, I generally appreciate a suggestion on how to fix it, right? And by the way, it's really okay. I've gotten critiques and edits back where someone said, I just feel that this paragraph is clunky. I'm not really sure what it is about it that's twigging me here. And I don't have any practical suggestions for you. I just suggest that you take a look at it. That's perfectly valid. I took a look at it and I agreed and it was true. And what I did is split up a couple sentences and put them in a slightly different order, dropped a couple adverbs, and it worked, right? You know, so you can do that. That's okay, right? But never say, okay, this is shit. You know, that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody, right? So, yeah. And we're about, what is it? 3/4, I think. No, almost more than that of Bob's first chapter here. Was it just the first chapter you wanted me to look at, or the first 3? By the way, I have the links for the first 3, and I'm happy to do that. It is 2,400 words, so it's not that long, and that's fine. Moonflower says, I was looking into Tolkien in particular because of his influence on fantasy. Yes, every fantasy writer should, and every science fiction writer, in my opinion, should read Lord of the Rings and probably The Hobbit too. Because you do not understand modern fantasy if you don't understand where it came from. Excuse me. I'll also say that a lot of the critiques that are leveled at his work aren't true, right? It's true of the stuff that's derivative. It's not true of what he wrote in a lot of cases. And some of it is worth criticism. There's a lot of unconscious racism in there, for example. You know, I don't think it's intentional, but it is there, right? You should be aware of that. And, you know, there are places, actually, I don't, strangely, I don't feel there's sexism in there just because of Eowyn, right? The character of Eowyn kind of makes that not a thing. So, yep. As Saruka says, make a compliment sandwich. Surround a critical thing with compliments. Yes. Always start and end with something positive. Put the stuff that is negative in the middle. Absolutely. Sandwich. Yeah. All 3 is whole story. Okay. So was that what you wanted me to critique? Like, you asked me, you said it was about 2,400 words or 2,200 words. I don't remember. Was that, you know, or just this first part? I'm happy to stop here. It's totally cool. Whatever you want to do. Master Lauren says, I've got to get going to make dinner for the family. I'm sure I'll see most of you later and in someone's stream. Well, you'll certainly see me. I've gotten into a habit now where I kind of turn on Twitch in the morning. I go to the Anvilite streamer calendar and I go, okay, who's on? Right? And then I go to their channel and I just leave it on all day, right? Even if I'm not actually paying attention to it, I just run it in the background and let people carry me on raids and come in and out when I have time. Right? So you will definitely see me. I will be around. Same, says Songbird. The whole thing counts 2,800 words. If possible, you wanted me to do it. Okay, here we go. It's only 2 o'clock. We've only been doing this, well, 2:15. We've been doing this for an hour. So we're good. All right. I just realized there was a spelling mistake by the way here, a typo. An undead servant capable of comprehending, right? Comprehending, you got an N instead of an H, right? Just FYI when you get there. No big deal. Okay, that's editing, but I was here. Bob said he was open to editing, so I am allowed to do that. If someone says, nah, I don't want you to pay any attention to my grammar, I know it needs to be cleaned up, you know, then, you know, don't. Because you're just wasting their time, right? That's not fair. Okay. Instead, I was walking through the east gate of Enmere, heading deeper into the frontier lands to find some town, some village, quiet enough and remote enough to allow me to finish my experimentation in peace. I would need to find a village with a graveyard and a place to set up a workspace where I would not be disturbed. A place where the superstitious locals would not even know I was there. So he plans to, like, grave rob, does he? Because superstitious locals are not likely to be cool with necromancers digging up corpses. Right? For I knew the way the common folk viewed a necromancer. They would not want me reanimating their loved ones. But what choice was there? That needs a question mark, right? I needed to find a place to complete my work. So he also thinks that in addition to being smarter than his professors, or at least less of an old stuffed fuddy-duddy with his superstitions, that he's smarter than the common folk. Okay, uh, definite shades of Dr. Frankenstein. I like it. I know where the trouble's going to be, right? More or less. I look forward to seeing how it unfolds, right? It's a very good first chapter, right? Very good. And if it's the whole story in 3 chapters, I'd call them parts. It's a very good first part. I'm ready to learn more. I want to see how this unfolds. I want to know how the common people are going to react when they find out what he's up to. I want to know how his professors are going to react. This is going to get interesting. Yeah. Moving on. Yeah. Moonflower says, I'm pretty sure there was a bean spelled B at one point, if that's relevant. Yes, since Bob is open to edits, that is relevant, and it's worth mentioning. And if you see it again, let me know. I won't catch everything. Definitely, especially not on a first read through. I still go back to stuff like that has been published, right? And I still find typos. It happens. It's going to be a thing. So Moonflower says, but I've got to head out for dinner. Your work is cool, Dinosaur Bob, and have a good day, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us, Moonflower. This, of course, will be available for, at least 2 weeks here on my Twitch channel. And then if you want to see the rest of the critique part, and if it doesn't run like most of the stream, I'll clip it out and save it as a highlight. And I do I do upload everything to YouTube. It tends to be released later, but it is archived there. So you will get a chance to watch it. Have a good day. All right. Moving on to... Oh, I didn't change the screen. I'm such a silly... Okay. All right. Huh. Moonflower says I'll probably be around again in 30 minutes. Okay. That's cool. Okay, I ate dinner. I got nothing to do. I'm going back. All right. Okay, so part 2 or chapter 2, On the Road. I was on the road for several weeks, first traveling east along the coast to South Cove, then south into the frontier's interior. There were a few hamlets along the long road in addition to the towns of Meadows End and Laketon, but while all had graveyards, all were either too conspicuously located to permit me to do what I needed to do, or they were so infrequently added to that I would not have been able to find a sufficiently fresh corpse. Fresh corpses, ew, nice. Many nights I rested along the roadside, too uncomfortable to sleep. Other nights, the few coins I could afford for in-rooms bought only uncomfortable common room accommodations. I think there might be an extra M in this, right? Or there should be an extra M, rather. And again, comfort kept sleep from me. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. Okay, so here's a minor critique, and I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it since this is obviously a short story, but I don't really get an essence of what kind of historical or technological period we're looking at. And since we're starting into the halfway point and we're describing the surrounding area, I would like a bit more, right? Like, I don't think you need to, spend a whole bunch of time describing the scenery, but I would like to know things like, yeah, and that's the other thing. I get the names, but I don't really know what they look like. We have coast, right, and they have graveyards. So is this kind of like the New England kind of area in the U.S., or is this more like Dover, or so throw in a couple hints, right? If there's mountains, tell me, right? If there's fields, and a beach, tell me, right? But briefly, right? You can throw it like, I smelled the salt air as I trundled along the beach road, whatever, right? Like it doesn't have to be much, you know. And something like, okay, we have common rooms, right? Which narrows, and in rooms, so that narrows it down to, we're at least, I think, at approximately 1500s, and we could be as late as middle Victorian, maybe, right? The cat sleep references are important, by the way. You'll see. See, that's interesting. That's interesting to know, right? And if okay, I'd say that's good work. I noticed it in the first part, but I didn't twig on it there, right? Which is cool, right? Because you've made it clear, right? I might chalk it up to just he's got a nervous personality, or he's one of those guys who thinks too much. I often have problems sleeping because I'm one of these people who thinks too much, right? My brain will keep me up thinking about ideas until 4 o'clock in the morning, and this is what happened last night. So yeah, right. Okay, but yeah, I didn't twig on it as being especially significant, but it's cool because when whatever is going on there comes to fruition, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look for that. Oh yeah, yeah, okay. No, he mentioned that a few times. Okay, so good stuff. Okay, then I came to Dryad Falls. Here was a town with a cemetery separated from the town by a stretch of the Faywood. It was secluded, and the town was sufficiently populated that it suffered deaths at least once every few days. Interesting. Okay, so basically, there is a cemetery that is on the edge of perhaps yeah, how big is the town, right? Because that's interesting, right? Okay, yeah, I wonder if town is a big enough word. Maybe it should be city. I'm not sure. I can't really say for sure, right? Um, I was able to break into a mausoleum that looked like it had not been visited in decades. There I set up my experiments and concocted my elixirs. 2 days later, the undertakers delivered me my first experimental subject. Interesting. Okay, so he's living in the mausoleum. So he has no fears of ghosts or zombies. He doesn't believe in any of that. That's interesting, right? I know there's more than enough room in the ancient mausoleums, and I am now getting more of the perhaps the 1700s Age of Enlightenment kind of tech. So maybe ignore my comment about more of a field of the time period earlier on. It may not be necessary. It might be fun to drop in a piece of technology, like say coaches and horses passed me on the road or once or twice. I don't know, right? Yeah. Okay. No, that's cool. Um, I also think that experiments and elixirs is a bit vague. I would like to know a bit more. I realize that you don't have the space to spend a lot of time on it, right? Um, so the elixirs tells me that there's liquids involved. There's probably a certain alchemical element, right? Um, so are we talking about beakers and vials? Are we talking about cauldrons and crucibles, right? Um, are we talking about strange medicinal powders that have to be handled with gloves and a filter? Like, what are we talking about here? I'd like a couple of hints, that's all. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of time on it, but a couple little details would be helpful. All right, so Delian says, same. Damn brain likes to think too much. Yeah. Yep. This is actually fairly common among intelligent and imaginative and creative people. It's okay. I have long ago given up trying to put any kind of chain on my sleep schedule because it doesn't work. Um, big town, small city. Okay, fair enough. Um, After digging it up that night, I arranged the body and other accoutrements as required for the ritual I planned to perform. This would be a good opportunity to drop a thing or two about what those are. But at the same time, maybe he's deliberately obscuring the information, right? If he's deliberately obscuring the information, then I would put that in there somewhere. I would say, I will not share the details with this work because or the reader or whatever, because they're proprietary or something, But as I performed the rites, it became clear that something was wrong. What rites? Again, a hint would be, a couple of details, right? Is all I'm saying, right? Nothing. A good rule of thumb when you're trying to describe something and you're trying to do it in details is no more than 3, right? And at, 1 or 2 would even be fine if they're well chosen, right? So, yeah, but again, maybe he's deliberately obscuring it. And that would make sense because obviously he's very much a mad scientist archetype, and that's cool. But as I performed the rites, it became clear that something was wrong. The body reanimated, but it lunged clumsily for me, clearly seeing me as food and not as master. Fortunately, the creature did not move well. I was able to easily escape it. How do we know the body saw him as food? Right? Did it try to bite him? Because otherwise, it could have just been that, he was being seen as a threat or as, an obstacle, right? We need to know why he knows that, right? Okay. Still, like I say, I'm absorbed in the story. I want to know what happens next. And ultimately, like I keep saying, that is the most important thing. I also care about the fate of the character. I like him despite the fact that he's kind of an ass. So that's great. Because we've all been there, right? We've all been in the, all these people are wrong. I know perfectly well what I'm doing. And, even especially as teenagers, right? And maybe we do and maybe we don't, right? After leading it away from the mausoleum, I was able to circle back and recover all of my equipment and supplies. Yeah, okay. I think perhaps this is one of the things that critique is good for, right? We all know about zombies, right? And I think that you're probably assuming that the reader is going to assume this is a zombie. And a zombie behaves in a particular way, right? And we know what to expect from zombies. But this is a different universe, and maybe the zombies don't work the same way here. Are they motivated by hunger for brains? Blood? Life energy? Are they motivated by hunger at all? I don't know, right? So, yeah, that's one of those things that's maybe clear in your head, and the reader won't get. So this is what this is for. I hope that is of some help. He knew because he knew zombies, but point taken. Okay. If he knows zombies, we should refer to that, right, at some point, because then it won't, then this will be clear, right? Maybe in his whole, and the professors are all wrong sequence, he could be like, scoffing about, clearly I'm not about to create zombies, and then we know, okay, we have zombies. And that's cool, nothing wrong with that. Why waste the reader's time if we've already said it's a zombie, explaining what a zombie is, right? We know zombies. So, you could put that in there, and if you use that word, then people will immediately understand. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, 2 different approaches to the same problem. It all depends on what you want. After leading it away from the mausoleum, I was able to circle back and recover all of my equipment and supplies. But realizing that my animated creature was heading for the town, it became obvious, there's an extra space in there, just FYI, that I could no longer stay and work here. The town would deal with the creature easily enough, but it would also be, yeah, B is missing there, sorry, I almost read over it, investigated, and I would surely be found. And so, instead of the sleep of triumph that I had looked forward to, I would instead spend the night fleeing. I would say I instead spent the night fleeing yet another town. We're trying to keep it all in past tense, right? During the week's journey to the next town, I was able to review my ritual notes and realize my error. At least I could expect to perform that part of my experiment correctly next time. Mm. Uh, I'm starting to think that because there's not a lot of details about what he's doing, that you should probably go with the explanation of he's not putting this down where some, common cretin might pick it up and read it, which is fine. It's totally logical and makes sense within your plot, right? So, you know, uh, just make a note of that somewhere. He makes a comment about that, and we're good, right? During the evenings of my journey to Faybridge Crossing, the anticipation of success and the fear of abject failure competed to prevent me from getting any decent rest. Why is he going to Faybridge Crossing? Um, because it's on the road. Perhaps my journey on through Faybridge Crossing, right? Because the way that's put, it suggests it's a destination. And now we're looking here. I had traveled for a day after leaving for Carnstown, right? So we didn't stop in Faybridge Crossing. We went on to Carnstown. So maybe through. Yeah, during the evenings of my journey through Faybridge Crossing would be, or or on the way and through Faybridge Crossing, right? Because then we know we're like, passing through. I know you clarify it here, but it makes the reader stutter and go, "What? Okay, we're going to Faybridge Crossing. Oh no, we're not." Okay. Um, I had traveled for a day after leaving for Carnstown. I had hoped the hamlet I was leaving, Faybridge Crossing, would be suitable. Uh, but the graveyard was next to their church, and the church was in the town square. I I recalled, right, past tense, thinking it odd for the town's boneyard to be in the heart of the village, but these rustics on the frontier do strange things. Cool. Regardless, I love that because it's a total, again, we have character insight. He's like, superstitious idiot cretins. It's really kind of cool. I'm kind of looking forward to him getting his comeuppance a bit. Yeah, okay. Regardless, Faybridge Crossing would not do. And Carnstown was known to be a lawless town, so I truly hoped my search would end favorably there. Okay, there's some rearranging I would suggest doing in these couple of paragraphs just to kind of make the sequence more smooth. Um, um, I would say during the evenings of my journey, the anticipation of success and the fear of abject failure competed to prevent me from getting any decent rest. Now I'm noticing the lack of rest, by the way. That's the third time we've repeated it. And the brain twigs on threes, which is an important thing to note in writing and in poetry. Okay, that's the third time. The not sleeping is important. Now I know it, right? Otherwise, if the writer had just meant, if you had just meant that he is, you know, like us, and he's a creative and imaginative person, and he's, routinely up in the weird hours and sleeping all over the place because his brain won't shut up, right? Then he would, like that would twice would have been more than enough, right? But you've mentioned it 3 times. Ah, okay. Now we know what's important, right? So just drop the Faybridge Crossing out of that entirely would be my suggestion, and then rearrange this, right? I had hoped that the hamlet of Faybridge Crossing would be suitable, but the graveyard was next to their church, and the church was in the town square. I recall thinking it odd for the town's boneyard to be in the heart of the village, but these rustics on the frontier do strange things. Regardless, Faybridge Crossing would not do. I continue. I I traveled onward for a day until I reached Carnstown. It was known to be a lawless town, so I truly hoped my search would end favorably there. Something like that, right? And then the brain doesn't stutter and go, what? Wait, we're stopping? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. He says, understood, it's the next town. Yeah, it's a bit messy, but that's part of what, you can do with critique. Although that could technically be called an edit too, right? So, again, there's a line. And I recognize that this is like, it's still in draft mode, right? Because it wasn't public. And everybody's baby is ugly until it's done polishing. At the end of the first day on the road, I sought a place to make camp on the side of the. We don't need. That's repetitious. At the end of the first day on the road, I sought a place to make a camp on the side of the road. How about on the roadside? We're saying the same thing, but it doesn't repeat on the road, right? Okay, and came upon a clearing. In the morning, as I was about to depart, though, okay, that again is a bit of a time jump. We're like, you came on the clearing, and okay, so what happens in the clearing, right? Oh, now we're in the morning. Nothing happened in the clearing? Wait a minute. And now my brain, because of the nature of this and the noticing of the lack of sleep, I find myself going, did he just have a jump of time where he remembers coming to the clearing and remembers waking up in the morning, right? And, is that your intention there? Because if it is, that's cool. It works. Hey, Kahuna, welcome. Nice to see you. Glad you could join us. We are doing a critique for Dinosaur Bob, and we are trying to demonstrate how to do a good critique. Yeah, too many roads. Too many roads, so he's kind of, okay, alright. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, that was my comment about the too many roads, yes. I see I have a bit of a lag. That's okay. Good point. It's another restless night. Okay. In that case, I came upon a clearing on the side of the road at the end of the first day. It was another restless night. That's good enough, right? In the morning, as I was about to depart, though, I heard what sounded like crying coming from deeper in the wood. Creeping forward, I spied a clearing, and that's a suggestion. Do it how you want, but you get the idea, right? Creeping forward, I spied a clearing with a number of wooden markers planted in the ground. At the far side stood several people, gathered in a half circle, and looking at the ground. Okay, again, we've got the repetition of the ground. Clearing with a number of wooden markers planted in the dirt, perhaps, and then it's not repetitious, right? The women were crying. After a moment, yeah, you got an M instead of an N, but that's okay. It's a typo. I'll do that. The people all left, never noticing me as I skulked at the edge of the forest. Where they were standing, there were two new markers at the end of two fresh piles of dirt. Okay, at the far side stood several people gathered in a half circle and looking at the ground. So the clearing is here. This again is another opportunity for something that the reader may find confusing. The clearing is here. He's approaching this way. I better put myself on screen to make sure you can see me here. I'm in the background while you dive back into CSS. That's fine, Kahuna. Have fun. I honestly think I try to read out what people say in the chat so that if people are listening, they can just put me on the background and they don't have to watch, right? And that's totally fine by me. So, okay, the clearing's here. He's approaching this way. The people are over here looking at something on the ground there. He can see what they're looking at, right? So he would not, at least by the way it's described, not see what they're looking at until after they leave, right? Unless he's like peering through a thicket and there's stuff in his way and he won't be able to see it until he gets there, right? which you have to put in there if that's what's going on. Just because, otherwise people are having a brain thing, right? I think that our experienced necromancer is probably experienced enough with graveyards to recognize one when he sees one by the wooden markers, right? So I also imagine that he would probably, wonder to himself, a graveyard out here? Interesting, you know? Right when he saw the wooden markers. A clearing with a number of wooden markers planted in the dirt. Apparently, I had stumbled on, you know, or even like a graveyard out here, right? And then perhaps start a new paragraph, right? Because now the people are looking at the ground. He knows it's a graveyard when he sees the wooden markers. I recognize a graveyard as soon as I see the wooden markers. So I'm sure our experienced necromancer easily does, right? So I would even start making inferences, right? At the far side stood several mourners, gathered in a half circle, looking down at, uh, you know, uh, two fresh piles of dirt, right? And then this paragraph, right? I couldn't believe my luck. Not one fresh body, but two. Two chances to realize my life's work. And this place, obviously a farm family graveyard, was as remote as I could have hoped for. Okay, yeah. Yeah, actually, that even works the way I was describing it, because now we're elaborating. Okay, we see wood markers, graveyard. Then we see mourners, and we're looking around, farm family graveyard. Okay, was as remote as I could have hoped for. I resolved to return in the night, open the graves, and conduct my tests. Actually, no, I would stop there. Hold on. Yeah, obviously family graveyard was as remote as I could have hoped for. I'll go back here. Um, After a moment, all the mourners all left, never noticing me as I skulked at the edge of the forest, and then come back. Right? I resolved to return in the night, open the graves, and conduct my tests. Right. New paragraph. I started. There's like 3 paragraphs in there. Right. I set up a new camp deep in the woods and attempted to get some rest. I knew it would not be a long night, so sleep now would be helpful. But with the anticipation, I could not sleep. Those are my suggestions. You don't have to take my suggestions. I just think that that would provide kind of a smoother trip through the thought process of our necromancer, right? And also, I think it might. You're a pretty advanced writer, right? So I think that it's okay for me to discuss the idea of tension and pacing and its relationship to tension, right? And if you kind of do that, look through his eyes and notice that he notices the graveyard and the dirt, and then immediately he's like, "Ha! Stuff for my experiments!" Right? And then goes right on planning that, watching the people and not announcing himself to them, right? It tells you that he doesn't give a shit who died, right? He doesn't care what they died of, right? It doesn't even occur to him to think about plague. Why are there 2 people dead instead of 1? None of that occurs to him because he's so focused on his goal, right? And that's you've got all that in there, and that's lovely. Like, it's lovely. And if you see it kind of laid out like that, then it makes it stand out more, I think. But I love that you've got all that in there. He doesn't give any thought at all to, like, who are these people, what happened, was there an accident, was there a crisis? Nah, not relevant. I have 2 fresh corpses, right? That's what he thinks. he's he's a fun character. He's cool. Yeah, got it. I can tweak this section. Yeah, it's window dressing. It's not important. But okay, it is important, but only because you're at a place in your writing where you're ready for that kind of information, right? You can work on that now. This is a place where I can provide a direction for improvement for you that will make stuff like snappier, right? And your stuff's already pretty snappy, right? I'm interested. I'm enjoying this story. I would enjoy this if I read it in a book. This is cool. Okay. Um yeah, still not sleeping. Okay. After the sun set, I returned. Digging through the fresh, soft earth was easy, and I soon had both bodies uncovered. They appeared to be young, strong men, felled by injuries. Okay, now we have a bit of a mental autopsy, right? One with a crushed chest, the other with a deep gash from shoulder to heart. Interesting. So what happened there? He doesn't think about that. He hauls them out. I hauled them out of their earthen beds and arranged them and the circle needed for the reanimation ritual. I conducted the ritual more carefully this time, making sure not to make the same errors as the last time. That's redundant. You don't need both of them. I conducted the ritual more carefully this time, or I made sure not to make the same errors. Right? One of the two is necessary. You're just saying the same thing twice, basically, and you know, pick which one you like better in that sentence would be my suggestion, and use it. Right? My care was rewarded. At the end of the ritual, I had 2 docile zombies awaiting my commands. Now we have the word zombie. Okay, cool. All that was left was to administer my elixir and await the transformation. Handing the vial to one of the pair, I directed it to drink, and it did. Ooh. The transformation was rapid, but not what I anticipated. Nope, probably not. Initially, the undead being collapsed, writhing, as if fighting with itself. But when I would not use initial there because you used initially in the previous sentence, but when the convulsions subsided, the creature looked up at me not with the eyes of intelligence, but with eyes of rage and hatred. The creature leapt for me and sunk its sharp teeth into my shoulder before I could even react. I do not recall how I managed to get out of its grasp or how I managed to outrun it. That's great. And I like the fact that you're not going to waste our time with an extended fight scene if it's not important to the story. Good. I don't recall. When I regained my composure, I found myself running down the road towards Carnstown. My face was bleeding from claw marks. My shoulder throbbed painfully where it had been bitten. I ran until I could run no further and collapsed on the side of the road. But though I was exhausted, missing a D, and hurt, what sleep I got was tortured by pain and horrid nightmares. Now I find myself wondering, is this like zombies we're familiar with? Is he in danger of becoming a zombie? Has he caught some kind of contagion? Ooh. There you go. There's some good feedback for you right there, Bob. I have returned, listened for approximately 2 minutes, and I'm already enraptured with the story again. And I just realized you've not been looking at the text the whole time, and you should have been. I'm sorry about that. Ah, gotta pay more attention. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm tired today. Okay, so here we are, tortured by pain and horrid nightmares. So we're still not sleeping. Is he hallucinating yet? I wonder. Okay. When I awoke, I knew I was in trouble. Aha! I was feverish, and after being attacked by a creature such as I had inadvertently made last night, I knew what that meant. I was infected, and if I let this infection take me, I would die, then rise as a creature just like him. So yes, it does work like zombies we're familiar with. Cool. Now we have... Okay, here's where I want to stop for a minute and talk about the fact that you keep raising the stakes. That's good writing technique, right? When you're writing a story that you want to absorb people with, this is why in some books it almost goes too far where it feels like, okay, come on, something's got to go right for this character, right? Because the writer just keeps piling stuff on, and the situation just gets worse and worse and worse, right? This is what's going on here. The situation is getting worse and worse and worse, right? And I'm like, okay. but you're doing it well, right? You're adding stakes. The stakes are all natural consequences of stuff that he's done, right? The reader is going, I know this is not going to be good, and it keeps not being good, right? But because he's being a bit of a jerk about it, the reader is also going, serves you right. There's a little Schadenfreude going on here. This is good stuff, Bob. This is really good stuff. Ghoul, actually. He accidentally made a ghoul. Okay, yuck. As I fumbled through my pack, I realized that I did not even remember grabbing it in my escape. Okay, it's not important that you differentiate between zombie and ghoul. We know undead. We know stuff is scary. You're probably going to tell me it's a ghoul later. You did that so already, right? Undead, how does this work? Eventually you told me it was a zombie. I trust you to tell me eventually it's going to be a ghoul. Okay, right? As I fumbled through my pack, I realized that I did not even remember grabbing it in my escape. Somewhere in my pack, oh, it gets even worse, I love it. I had elixirs to treat diseases such as this, but I could not find them. In fact, several vials were missing. They must have fallen out in my haste to grab the pack and run. Okay, so we have a ghoul, and we had two people who were killed by something that slashed into its, like across here, and something that crushed its chest. Interesting. I recalled hearing from the Faybridge Crossing townsfolk that there was an inn along this road. Again, you need an ED here, right? I recall. If I could just reach it, I could concoct the elixirs I needed to survive. Why? Are there supplies there? Because doesn't he need stuff? Yeah, I was tired and sick, but had no choice but to move on, hoping the inn was close enough to reach before nightfall. Yeah. If there's things there by the inn that he needs for his elixirs, because like stuff fell out, right? And you need more supplies to make elixirs. Is there a particular herb that is used in the elixirs that is significant? Perfectly reasonable. There's lots of examples of that in occult tradition, right? Graveyard dirt is traditionally used in necromantic spells. There's different herbs like wormwood and mugwort. Mugwort, that's the one I'm looking for. Mugwort has been referred to euphemistically in witches' herbals and ancient herbals as graveyard dirt or graveyard dust. So maybe he's looking for mugwort. Mugwort is a weed, and it could well be growing beside the inn. Maybe he saw a bush. If so, go back and mention that, right? And throw that in there. I'm just throwing out suggestions, right? I just think he needs supplies as well as a place to build. So, okay, it barely was. There were fewer than a dozen patrons in the inn when I arrived. The innkeeper was kind and accommodating. He showed me to a private cabin behind the inn and promised to leave me in peace. Did our protagonist tell the innkeeper about what had happened, or did he fake it? Did he say something about, I believe I have a bit of a flu, I need a place to hold up for a while? You probably should actually spend a couple of lines on that. I notice you're avoiding interpersonal dialogue in this story, right? So I would say there were fewer than a dozen patrons in the inn when I arrived. I concocted a story about having a fever. Would the innkeeper mind if I was left or was in it? But I didn't want to be contagious to anyone. Would the innkeeper mind if I found some private accommodations, right? The innkeeper was kind and accommodating. He showed me to a private cabin behind the inn and promised to leave me in peace. Except for an old halfling woman who brought me a bowl of stew and pot of tea. This is the first time we have ever seen anything in the story that is not a zombie or a human or a ghoul, right? We have halflings in this world. Interesting, right? Now granted, I have not checked out your world. Oh yes, I have. I know that name. I know your world, right? But there's no hint of that to someone who just, if someone comes to this blind, right, and they haven't read your world, they're going to be a little taken aback by the sudden appearance of a halfling, because up to this point we've got kind of a gothic horror feel, right? And we're assuming that all the characters are human, right? So um, throw that kind of stuff in there, right? Here and there. If you've got halflings and elves and gnomes and stuff, then make the one of the professors a gnome or something that particularly pissed him off, right? And mention that, right? Make the innkeeper half elven, something, right? You know, the townsfolk were, you know, something else. Like dot a little bit more of that in there so that people know what to expect, because it seems out of place where it is. Of course not. Yeah, of course he didn't. Nope. But I can include that fact. He doesn't want to help. He thinks he can fix it himself. Or he doesn't want help. He thinks he can fix it himself. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. What I meant there, I think I was not clear. I meant that why was the innkeeper kind and accommodating? This guy shows up. He was probably rude when he first showed up, because people who think of themselves as smarter than everyone else tend to be condescending, right? And he comes back. Now he looks sick, right? We exist in a world where people are probably suspicious of illness. People are still suspicious and afraid of illness, right? But, you know, right into the Victorian era, if somebody was sick, they'd be like, stay the frick away from me, right? So, you know, why was the innkeeper nice and accommodating? He needs a better story. We need to know a little bit more about that interaction. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Like I said, it's a critique, not an edit. I am not your publisher. Take it or leave it. It's fine. It's just my opinion. And if it doesn't help you, don't pay any attention to me. Right? Okay. I would start this as a new paragraph too. Rummaging through what was left in my pack, I realized I was missing one key ingredient for my antidote. But I was tired. Oh, okay. So the ingredients are in the pack. The elixirs were missing. Thank God the components were still in there. Should probably say that when he discovers what's missing. Okay? But I was tired. So tired. Yes, because he's had no sleep. In the morning, I would find what I needed and heal myself. Collapsing on the bed, raging with fever now, I tried to sleep, but I could not. And so I was still awake as I felt death's cold, icy fingers slowly close around my throat in the dead of night. Yikes. Will our protagonist survive this experiment? Maybe not. Not with a title like Hungry Hungry. Oh, yuck. Yeah. Bob said that would depend on the context in which it's being read. Understood. Yeah, fair enough. Right? A good point. Innkeeper asked no questions, gave him the room, and sent him food, which is totally reasonable. We just need to know that. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break here before I do the final chapter. We're at 3 o'clock. This is good. I'll probably finish this up completely right about the time that it's just about time to end the stream at the rate that I'm going. And that's awesome, because it means that the whole stream will be dedicated to critiquing, right? And then it can be saved as a resource, and that's useful. So great. But I do have to run off quickly, and I got to get something more to drink. I will be right back in about 5 minutes. All right, sorry about that, guys. I am back. All right. So, hey, Nikati. Scribe of Nikati is here. Scribe, welcome. Awesome. Glad to see you. Moonflower says, I should get something done. Am I likely to get something done? Probably not. Okay, at desk now, hopefully a bit less lag. Sorry if it was lagging. Yes, Scribe of Nikati is here for the finish of Bob's story. We're moving on to part 3 of 3. I heard something about people being condescending and thought I'd say present on behalf of the brother sisterhood of know-it-alls. Know-it-alls are no fun. Yeah. No, yeah. When you're giving a critique, right? Don't be condescending. It's not good. Right? You're just gonna hurt people's feelings. You're not gonna accomplish your purpose of helping people. And you don't strike me as condescending though, Scribe. Like, I don't find you condescending. Like, it's not your fault I'm seeing it on every stream. Oh, that's shitty. I'm sorry to hear that. Walking Dead Lover says, grab some fiber-filled kiwi snacks for the last part of the story. All right, so we're ready. We have popcorn. We're ready to go? All right, let's do it. Okay. Hungry. I recalled again, because we're still trying to stick with the past tense, awakening in a dark, quiet place. I was confused. I was certain I was about to die. It appeared that even in death I could not sleep. And then I sensed the rage and the hunger, the ravenous hunger. Excuse me. I felt the desire to seek out living flesh and devour it. But at the same time, I realized it wasn't really me feeling these feelings. I was there, inside this raging, ravenous mind. But these were not really my thoughts. I felt them, I shared them, but they were not mine. As the true owner of these sensations began to push and dig and claw upward from the dirt that enveloped it, I love that. Push and dig and claw upward through the dirt that enveloped it. You're like, you can, it's, yeah, that's good stuff. I realized I was an observer, but an observer from within the beast. Yikes. Awful. My mind was trapped deep within the raging mad creature, powerless to direct it or help myself. I recall wondering, was it my mind, or was it my very soul that was trapped so? And now he's ruining his, arrogance, isn't he? He's having a Faustian moment. Very nice. After minutes of clawing, my host broke free of the grave. Minutes of clawing? Something descriptive here may be helpful. Did it feel like it took forever, or was it only minutes? Right? My host broke free of the grave, for it was most certainly a grave that had enveloped it. Sniffing the air, we launched ourselves towards what looked like a small home built into a hillside. We thrust ourselves at the door, attempting to break it down and get at the fresh, live meat within. We could smell it, and the odor enhanced the hatred and rage. We hated it, but we needed to feed on it. We pounded at the door repeatedly, urged on by the cries and sobs of whomever it was on the other side of the portal. Lovely stuff. Love the horror of being trapped into this monster's body. Fantastic. But before we could get through the stout wooden door, another odor reached us. More fresh meat. Turning, we saw several living beings, not protected by walls or doors. A fresh meal out in the open for us to feast on. Yes! Okay, I recall noticing the moonlight glinting off the sharp blades held by these beings and understanding their import. But the raging creature that was in control either did not see them or did not care. We approached these new beings, and I sensed the creature that was my host and jailer trying to choose which to feast upon first. Well, that explains why ghouls and zombies always behave kind of like idiots, doesn't it? Okay. The adventurer's axe cut deep into the bloodless flesh of the creature that I had become. Once. Twice. With the third strike, I watched my headless body remain standing, twitching for a moment as my head struck the ground and rolled. My still open eyes saw my body finally crumple and lie still. I felt the hunger within me fading. That is creepy as fuck, by the way. Way to go. The rage against anything that lived was receding. It seemed as if I was finally being released from the tiny prison in which my mind was trapped. My body would be my own once more, if only for another moment before death took me again. But I felt a peace I do not believe I have ever known before, or I did not believe I had ever known before, is what should be there, I think. I had dreams of creating a useful servant, but I realized that even had I succeeded, I would have merely created a prison for a mind. The spark that was me was helpless as this creature sniffed and hunted for living flesh. The remnant of my mind that could do nothing to quell the hatred that raged in his brain as it tried to tear down the door of the halfling's home. Now we know it's a halfling? Was it the halfling who brought him tea earlier? Yeah, it's a bit confusing. I'm not sure how to fix it off the top of my head, but it is a bit. The fear that I felt as I sensed its anticipation of ripping into living flesh and consuming it. Even if I had been successful in creating a docile servant, I realized it would have been nothing more than an eternal hell for the mind of the being whose body I had transformed. Let's see. You sort of said the same thing twice in this paragraph. And that is, I realized that even if I had succeeded, I would have merely created a prison for a mind. That's at the beginning. And I realized it would have been nothing more than an eternal hell for the mind of the being whose body I had transformed. Again, this is a situation where you should probably pick one, but then and whichever one you like better and think is stronger. But at the same time, I'm not sure how to round it out. Personally, I would just lose the first sentence of that paragraph and I would go on. The spark that was me had been helpless, right? Because now we're in a past tense, right? Because here we're in the past tense. I felt a peace I do not believe I had ever known before. So the spark that was me had been helpless as this creature sniffed and hunted for living flesh. The remnant of my mind that could do nothing to quell the hatred, or could do nothing, perhaps skip that quelled the hatred that raged in his brain as it tried to tear down the door of the halfling's home. Maybe there needs to be a comma in there just because it's a long sentence. Brain, comma, perhaps. The fear that I had felt as I sensed its anticipation of ripping into living flesh and consuming it. Even if I had been successful in creating a docile servant, I realized it would have been nothing more than an eternal hell for the mind, and the is missing there between the for and mind, of the being whose body I had transformed. It is better that I failed, and I am grateful to the axe that has freed me from this prison. My instructors have been right all along, but now I am at peace, no longer driven by my dreams, no longer driven by anything. Now, finally, I can sleep in peace. I would end it with, now, finally, I can sleep. Because you've already said peace in the previous sentence, and this refrain of not being able to sleep is a constant, right? And that would emphasize it more. And what a strong ending. This is wonderful. This is a great story, Bob. I really enjoyed this. Yeah. Where are we here? You're eating New Zealanders? Says Dinosaur Bob to Walking Dead. Walking Dead's like, perhaps. Well, her name is Walking Dead Lover, after all. Yes, actually, but that's the same problem of world context. Yeah, exactly. It comes back to the world context stuff. Just drop some more hints earlier in the story that there are other beings in this world than humans and zombies, and that would be great, right? That's all you would need. It would not need much. Just I don't know, make one of the professors an elf or something. It doesn't matter. It's really, it's not relevant. But yes, yes, clapping indeed. This was an excellent story. I really enjoyed this. I would enjoy this reading it in an anthology. Um, it's very, it's a classic horror theme, but you have told it very well in a slightly different context than I have seen it, right? And I love the fact that you have taken the I mean, it's the Frankenstein theme, right? It's the Faust theme, and we have taken it, right, and instead of being a science fictional thing, it is fantasy, but it codes as science fiction. I love stuff like that that switches that kind of thing on its head. I'm a big fan of it, right? I I think you've done something excellent as well with your protagonist Carol, right? Carol is sympathetic. I I'm sad that he died, right? I kind of wanted him to have a lesson, right? And then survive. But he didn't. He died, right? And I'm not angry about it. It's the right ending, I feel. And it's good, right? It feels right, but I'm sad for him, right? And that's a hard balance to make an arrogant, insufferable, know-it-all protagonist and still make me care about his fate, right? I have, of course, had insufferable know-it-all moments, so I can't help but sympathize with him, right? Every now and then, this insufferable know-it-all is actually right too, but it's a good object lesson in listening to the people around you, right? And the the pacing is really good. You've got an excellent sense of a short story's pacing, which I have to work at. That's something I'm not as good at, right? You try not to put in extra crap that's not needed, right? And for the most part, you're excellent. It's just that in a couple of places it obscures the details a little bit, and I personally would like a little bit more information, but it doesn't need much. It doesn't need much. It's just because some things are a bit confusing, a little time jumpy and stuff. But it's I really like the work you've done. This is excellent, and I think that if you were to try to get this published, you could do it, like professionally. It could be done. I know magazines that would buy it. So well done. Yeah, either that or it doesn't need to be halflings again, not really instrumental to the story. Yes, that's another way of approaching it. Um, and okay, you would have to choose your strategy, and this one is about marketing, right? It's not really about plot or character. Um, I suspect it's not happening yet, but okay, I'm thinking to the far future here, and this is something that I'm considering in my approach as to how I present my writing here and use manuscripts. Because it's new, we're mostly getting other Anvilites reading it right now. But eventually, it's going to be big enough that the SEO is going to be picked up, right? And people are going to start to get directed to manuscripts like they are to Wattpad or whatever, right? And when that happens, we might attract readers who know nothing about our World Anvil worlds, have never seen us before, right? So, if you're trying to get them interested in your world with your book, with your story, your excellent short story, right? Then you will want to include little details like that because that might draw people in. They will realize, okay, it's sort of high fantasy, but with a maybe a Ravenlofty twist. They'll want to know more. If that's something that interests them, they'll go look for your book, right? They'll go look at your world. They'll check out more information, right? You're right. It's not important to the story. If you're wanting the story to stand on its own and you're not concerned about people approaching it from that end, right? Then it's probably easier in terms of the editing to not point out that the uh, in worker there is a halfling, right? But it could be used as a way to bring people in, right? This guy, by the way, was the first encounter of adventure #1 in my game. That's awesome. That's where the halflings came from. By the way, I'm an engineer by education. It's hard to be right all the time. Yeah, I remember you saying that on Sunday. That's cool. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. I may talk to you about that after some cleanup. Yes, please do. Absolutely. I'm hoping to be available as a resource. I really like helping other writers get their feet under them, right? I want to see us all succeed, right? So if I can help, I will do it. Now, granted, my time can be limited, and I don't have as much of it as as I would like, right? But a once over to make sure, like mostly this is really well presented already. Um, it's not going to need a lot of editing, right? So if you would like me to do a quick edit for you, Bob, especially because you were willing to be such a good sport and a guinea pig in, letting me demonstrate critiquing with your work, then absolutely, I'd be happy to do that for you, right? So yeah, and if you guys want to talk about self-publishing or traditional publishing or the differences between the two, let me know about the things you guys want to deal with on the stream, right? I would be happy to point people at resources. I want. Yeah, I just remembered I didn't realize whether you were talking about editing or publishing, but either way, right? Absolutely, Bob. I'm there, right? And let me know what you guys want to see, right? What will be helpful to you? I want to help people out, right? I'm here to, you know, build us all up, right? So SEO, right? Just as more manuscripts appear, or SOE, whatever, I don't know. I might have had a dyslexic moment, but as more manuscripts appear, Google's going to pick up the manuscripts more and more. Eventually, it's going to notice the site as a place to find books online, right? And it's going to start to appear in search results for that reason. So you may end up drawing in readers who have never seen your work before, right? Who've known nothing about your worlds. I think that's likely, right? Dimitri tends to take a long view on things like that and knows how to make it work. So I totally anticipate that this will be a thing within a couple of years, if not more immediately, right? So, um, in an anthology of Carterian, it'd be halflings. In a standalone venue, it doesn't need to be. Fair enough. Yeah, if I could, yes, please. Yes, I will. Yeah. Honestly, these streams are my talk radio. Yeah. Oh, you mean the search algorithms? Gotcha. Yeah, subscribe. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what I mean. The search algorithms, it will, it'll start to get picked up, right? And that's a good thing. We want that. So, and yeah, his streams are my talk radio too. I often put them on in the background and I work, right? So that's a good thing. Okay, we're at 3:30. 3:26. We have half an hour ish left to the stream. Um, I don't know that I want to start on anything major that's new, right? But is there any? I mean, like, does anybody have any questions or comments or things they'd like to see or talk about in terms of upcoming streams, subjects they'd be interested in, questions about this process, their own suggestions about ways to handle critiquing, right? Whatever else, open the floor to a conversation, right? And you know, I'm all for it, right? And if it stays silent for a bit, then I'll probably check and see who else is on rather than start anything like brand spanking new. Scribe says article showcases are always nice, and I think it's smart to show people still writing after summer camp. I agree with you. Summer camp and World Ember are wonderful. So is NaNoWriMo, but writing goes on all the time, at least if you're going to be a writer, right? I use them as opportunities to give myself a kick in the pants with projects that I need to get done. And I found summer camp was very much like that. It helped me to write. I ended up approaching a lot of it because my worlds are not anywhere near as big as some of the people who've been around for a while, like Ethnos, right? I looked at my stuff and I went, oh, I need to write that article for that world anyway. 90%, 99% of the time when the prompt was presented, that's what I was doing. So I found it very helpful that way. And World Ember helped me create it in the first place, right? And Nano helps me focus back on writing, especially when I've been caught up in editing. I tend to um, I tend to draft in the winter, and I tend to do editing and world building in the summer, right? And this is just kind of the pattern, right? Usually because I'm more busy in the summer and I have more that I have to go do, right? And that's that can be challenging to get good drafting done, I find, because I kind of need to be really kind of deeply focused when I'm doing drafting, right? So yeah. Moonflower says a suggestion to fill time. Maybe we could do a 10-minute sprint or two and talk in between about what we're working on just to fill time. Of course, I'm up for that. That's cool by me. I did open up my manuscript that I'm working on. It's a Weird West story. I'll probably end up doing a little editing during the sprint, but I'm happy to do it. I did bring my timer, right? Delian says, I just recently started writing a shorter story based on one of my summer camp articles. You know, that's one thing summer camp was really good for. I hadn't done a lot of work on Weird West in a while, and it helped inspire me with the Weird West articles to get back to work on the Weird West series, which I need to do. So, Delian says, well, I'm still mostly planning that, but soon the writing will start. Planning is part of writing. It's an important stage. You need to give your brain time to work out the idea, right? It's really okay. Scribe says, breakdowns of stuff you find world building inspiring interests me. Uh, Clarify, if you don't mind, what do you mean by that? Okay, what I find in other people's world building, what I find in general in world building that's inspiring, I point me in a direction. Um, Walking Dead Lover says, I'm working on a short story I would love to have critiqued, but I'm not sure it would be safe to read on stream since it's extreme horror. Like body horror, says Scribe? Yeah, says Walking Dead Lover. Okay, I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. My channel is marked as mature, right? Um, when you come to my channel, it says, this streamer has indicated that their channels are for mature audiences. So, um, if you want to bring it to a stream, then I will probably do a content warning statement at the beginning of the stream, right? And we will focus on that. So maybe this is something that, I'm kind of, this is a difficult time. It's kind of a prime time, right? But we could, right? If you wanted to, I would just concentrate on that specifically. So that might be something that might be better as its own stream. Maybe not. It depends on how extreme it is, right? I got nothing against body horror, right? I write everything, right? So I think maybe we'll just give me some notice, right? And I'll give a content warning at the beginning of it, and then that way, if people are not interested in experiencing that, I'll probably choose this time of day too, because there's other streams going on, and people will have something else to watch if they don't want to watch that, and that's fine, and that's fine. Scribe says, for example, one of the things that helps me, okay, now here we go, right, is urban design and how societies design and build their living space. That has a lot of different uses for world building. Or I'm fascinated by foreign relations. It pops up a lot in Deseret. Yeah, absolutely, I hear you. Urban design and how societies design and build their living space. I actually find that very challenging reading myself. So it's cool that you focus on it. I generally find that I'm doing that kind of research when I need to know it, but not for fun, which is cool. I mean, everybody's got different approaches, right? Um, the short story is from a villain's point of view about torturing a minor character. Yeah, torture can be tricky, eh? Um, let's see. I think maybe I better check and see whether or not that one violates Twitch's terms of service. That said, there is a torture scene in the one of the Toy Soldier Saga novels because war is horrible and people are terrible. So I'd be interested in the same thing from my point of view. What inspires me? Um, it, let's see, specifically, hard to say, right? Lots of things I'll inspire me. I'll like be driving along, I'll see something, an idea, I'll go, well, what if this, right? Um, okay, I was inspired to the Weird West when I said to myself, okay, what would have happened if Stephen King's gunslingers from the Dark Tower were actually a thing in a high fantasy kind of setting? And what if it was a post-apocalypse, but they were, not falling apart, they were keeping it together, right? And that's kind of where that went. So other works often inspire me that are related to what I'm working on, right? So that's one thing, right? Music. I often get inspiration from music. I'll hear like a snippet of a song. I'll think, oh, that's an interesting story, and I'll start working from there. Um, I'm really interested in space. I'm a space nerd. I follow the International Space Station Twitter account, right? I follow NASA's Twitter account. I try to read about every new discovery that happens out there in the cosmos. So that always inspires me, a sense of wonder, right? Mythology inspires me. I read a lot about different mythologies. I have a big background in that, right? So often it's very easy for me to interweave that kind of stuff into my stories, right? Let's see. I went to, there was a whole story in the Weird West series that centers around a fair. I went to that fair, right? And I was walking around. I'm like, this is a perfect place for a Weird West story, right? Also, the Capel Valley in Saskatchewan, right, is the location of the Weird West stories, at least so far, right? And why is because I went on a cross Canada trip in an RV, and we drove through the Capel Valley. Well, I did it once in a car, and then I did it again in an RV, and had more time to look around. And I went, this is the most perfect place for a Western I have ever seen. And that kind of sparked, oh, hey, I had that idea about those gunslingers. I wonder, right? And those, yellow and bulldozer came together. So that's what happened there. And so, yeah, I don't know if that helps, right? Or if that's what you were looking for exactly, but these are different things I can think of, right? Oh, and yeah, sometimes I'm inspired by, I don't agree with this person's approach to that, and I think some deconstruction is required, right? I mean, part of the Toy Soldier saga is deconstructing some of the tropes of high fantasy, like, for example, why are the orcs the bad guys? Because the elves say so? Well, are the elves any judge of it? When you look at traditional elves in high fantasy, they're a bunch of racist assholes, aren't they? And classist jerks. So maybe we should doubt what they think is benevolent, and that kind of sparked the plot there, right? So, yeah, sometimes it's about hey, wait a minute here, let's not make assumptions. Walking Dead Lover says the villain is my favorite of the series because how messed up they are. You like to torture your players and your characters. You are a sadist. That's okay. You're allowed. That's actually, it can be very good inspiration. Yeah, Scribes has made me think of the Red Alert Tim Curry space quote. Yeah, such a memorable line. Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah. Walking Dead Lover says, if you remember my exotic pet laws article, which I do, the villain is the one who created the laws. He goes by Wolfslayer. Gotcha. Okay. So, like, slavery of another sentient species and treating them all like, you know, personal pets is his kind of thing. Mm. Fun, fun. Yes. I hope that if he's in a role playing game, your players will enjoy destroying him, and I hope that if he is in a story, that your protagonist will eventually be taken about. That's cool. You need to hate the villain, right? But then, yeah, stuff like that is what I'm interested in hearing about. Yes. Oh no, the buffering? Oh, that was weird. It just kept saying, "Ah, la, 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 la." I refreshed it and went away, thank goodness. Oh, that happened to me the other day. I was watching, who was I watching? I was watching Harold on Harold's table, and the screen just froze. The audio continued, but the screen just stopped. And I had to refresh before I got the video to catch back up. Yeah. It's not RPing, just a novel trilogy, but I hope to incorporate RPing someday. That's cool. That's cool. It doesn't have to be just a novel. Just a novel? Are you kidding me? There's no such thing as just a novel. A novel is an amazing creation that. Do you have any idea how many people aspire to write and never do? If you have written anything, right? Whether it's been published, whether it's fan fiction, whatever it is, right? And you're done at any point, you're like ahead of the game. There's at least 100 people who tried to do what you, for every one of us who did that, there's at least 100 people who tried and did not, right? At least, probably more, 1,000, 10,000, right? So, appreciate your accomplishments. Yeah. Hey, Story Girl, how are you? Nice to see you. I'm doing really well today. We're just about to end our stream here. I've just done an example of how to give a good critique and what not to do when critiquing. Right, so it was a lot of fun. You're doing okay. I'm glad to hear you're at least okay. I'm sorry to hear it's not great, but Story Girl is awesome. She is an Aussie writer, and she's also an Anvilite. And if you have not checked out her channel, you might want to consider it. She's not officially part of the streamer core yet, but we're trying to get her there. But you know, she does stuff. She's awesome. She does critiques, by the way, on screen, right? It's use of her channel points to do that, and she has good stuff to say. But I advise you, she's like Greg, right? She's intending it for experienced writers in a lot of cases. So if you're not more experienced, you might want to, you know, wait a bit before going there. But if you're thinking, okay, I'd really like to publish, and that's a goal for me, right? She's the place to go, right? She's very good at it. Link in channel, Story Girl. I will link in channel. It's her Twitch channel, which is just twitch.tv. If I can type today, my goodness. Story Girl. I got your channel, so if you want to link other things to Story Girl, you go right ahead. So that is her channel. Right there. Yeah, this is a pretty supportive bunch, right? Anvilites will always want to read more, especially if you're in the community. So, yeah, they're a good bunch. Just to check, who's on the calendar coming up? It's usually Kahuna who streams after me from the Anvil Core. It's Zog today. Okay. And Zog is awesome. But do you guys mind if I raid Story Girl today? I haven't raided her in a while, and I think that, since, especially with the subject that we've just been discussing, that we'll do that. Okay, so we're going to do a 10-minute sprint for those of you who want to before we go. Because somebody asked for that, and I don't remember who now, because I'm so tired and I'm like not making any sense at all. But somebody said if you want to do a 10-minute sprint. Yes, it was Moonflower who suggested that. And then we're going to go over and see Story Girl. Right. And if you want to watch Zog, hey, you guys know where to find him, right? Yeah, I like how Zog's Word Wednesday is on a Thursday for me. says Delia. No, it's a good suggestion, Moonflower. I like it. I think that's a great idea. I would like to, why not? Let's use the time. We got it, We got 15 minutes, so it's more than enough. Right. Yeah, because Delian is in Estonia, so it's like Thursday for him. Thursday, what? Morning? Afternoon? I don't even know. I'm not paying attention, but it's hilarious. Time zones are weird. Time zones are weird. 1:44 a.m. What the hell are you still doing up? Are you like me or one of these people? Yeah, you said that, right? You never sleep. God, last night I was up till 6 o'clock in the morning. You're plotting your story. Aha, the muse has you in its grip and it will not let go. I understand. Happens to me a lot. Words are hard. Yes, they are. Okay, we're going to do some writing. Let's do some writing. I'm going to manuscripts. Let's get down to business. To defeat the words. Okay. Moonflower's like, I woke up before 6 a.m. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, phone, timer, 10-minute sprint. By the way, I didn't get a chance to tell everybody, I've added some new channel point rewards. If you're watching one of our gaming streams, right, which right now is the Toy Soldiers Old School on Monday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, right, then we have a re-roll option. For 1,000 channel points, you can make us re-roll the last roll, for good or ill. I hope you'll be nicer than not, because my character has enough problems. Right? But that's your choice. You totally get to do that, right? For writing stuff, Rowan suggested on the last stream that I talk too much and I don't write enough. So she suggested that I put a thing where I get people to make me write a sentence, or, stop and write a sentence, stop, write a paragraph, right? And I said, okay, so those are available for channel points. And I thought also, if you want, right, I've got 3 different versions that I call Less Talk, More Write. And basically for 100 points a minute, so there's a 5-minute, 10-minute, and a 15-minute option, you can make me stop paying attention to chat and just start. We're going to start a word sprint. We're going to do it now, right? So that's a thing if you guys want to use it. We're going to do our 10-minute sprint. Everybody ready? And this is totally the wrong music for this, but I'm not changing it right now. Go. Oh, we have something going on. Dingy things. Oh, thank you for. Oh, wow. Thank you, Mercandor. Thank you for the subscription. Awesome. Much appreciated. Yay! Cool. Thank you. Yes, at 50 subscriptions, we are going to give away a signed physical copy of one of my books. So, and we'll send it anywhere in the world. So, yeah. So thank you for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. That's great. Wow. Does anybody know if there's anything here on manuscripts that will enable me to use curly quotes instead of straight quotes? I just have a personal preference for them. Oh, that's sweet, Murgendor. Thank you. I'm glad to know I was helpful. That's cool. It's great. It's what I'm here for. It's what makes it rewarding for me. Hey, Aegon. We're just doing a sprint, which I'm not doing very well. But good to see you. Yeah. All right. And that's the end of our sprint. I did better on that than I thought, even though I was kind of distracted. But I'm coming back at this cold from having left it basically moldering for a couple of months. A few months, actually. I think it's been at least 6 months since I've come back to this manuscript. You know, like I was still writing it on Word, and I transferred it over to manuscripts because I just love the format that it uses. So yeah, right. I was looking for where's word counter because I can't rely on what it said there total. How'd you guys do on your sprints if you were participating? I did 142 words, which isn't anything to write home about normally on a 10-minute sprint, but with the distractions. Oh, thank you, Moonflower. Yeah, and whatnot. I'm actually pretty happy with it. The fact that I jumped in cold. Well, at least for me, anyway. It's not a, you know. Try changing font, says Dinosaur Bob. It may be font dependent. That's a good point. Sneezes do not help the writing. Dumb allergies are making it hard to type. Can totally sympathize, which is why I took an allergy pill before I started the stream, because this is a bad time of year for me for that, right? 118 words for Moonflower. Good job, especially with all the distractions. 208 for Author God, or 18 rather for Author Goddess. Good God, you're amazing. 175 for Story Girl, because you know I'm impressed as hell. A Walking Dead lover, 150 words. Was trying to figure out the beginning of the story. That's excellent. That is amazing. Moonflower, 112. Actually, math is hard. Math is hard. As you can see, my dyscalculia moment there, screwing that up because I'm like, wait a minute. There's like a 1 in the middle of the 2 and the 8. So, good job, guys. That's great. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining me for this session, guys. And on Sunday, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping to get a little bit more writing done. I'm also going to do some editing on summer camp articles, which I'm working through slowly. Right. Author Goddess says, I love doing dialogue. Things flow quickly. I find that too. I like doing dialogue because the characters, it's easier to visualize how people talk than it is to visualize how things will sound better when you describe it, right? I find. So, yeah, I love dialogue too. It does make things flow. You guys are amazing. Yeah, I'm going to try to do more writing on Sunday at Sable's World Forge. Remember, it's at the same time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Uh, I'm probably going to start with editing summer camp. No, you know what? I'll get involved in the editing of summer camp articles, maybe, right? So we'll see how I feel. But my intention is to do half and half of the stream. Maybe what I'll do is start doing like, okay, I'm gonna do 10-minute sprint, and then I'm gonna set the timer again, and we'll do chat for 10 minutes and 10 minutes of edit, and then do I might set up something like that. Depends on how you guys feel. Moonflower says, I must be tired. I saw dialogue and was like, computer? Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I've done that. Well, not that specifically, but stuff like that. So, tired brain makes no sense. No, no. My brain is confusing enough before it is tired, and then it gets tired, and then it makes less sense. Nice to see you, says Story Girl. If you're wrapping up, I'll wander off and catch you another time. Are you starting right away? Because I thought, or are you like just kind of poking your head in here to see what's going on? Because I was going to raid you if you were available. If not, we'll raid Zog. Just poking your head in. Okay. Well, thanks for seeing you. I'm sorry that I was here at the end of it. I'll be on Sunday again. And also other things happening on the week. On Friday, Aaron will be doing his Ask an Old GM again, 1 p.m. Pacific. So that's like 3 hours ahead of or prior to now, wherever you are. Let's see, what else do we have going on? We don't have any special events this week. My podcast, If This Goes On, Don't Panic, is not happening until next week, I think. And State of the Multiverse isn't due till the end of the month, so no Thursday stream this week. Yeah, and we'll be back on Sunday doing some more writing, some more editing, more chatting, hopefully more writing. Right, and then Monday again is our Toy Soldiers Old School Pathfinder RPG in the Toy Soldier Space Fantasy universe. Yeah, we'll see you around. We're gonna go raid Zog, I think. Bob says, I just cleaned up a bunch of the things that you pointed out, but an edit reminder would be helpful. As in me reminding you that we're going to do an edit, or you reminding me that we're going to do an edit? Because you can poke me, right? And I will do that, right? Are you wanting to go over that in the beginning on Sunday or something, or next week? I can do that, right? Oh, yeah, and I'm not sure whether it'll be, I think it's going to be Tuesday next week. I'm going to be appearing at least briefly on Aaron's Ask an Old GM, right? Because somebody was asking about Vampire the Masquerade, and that's not his shtick, it's mine. So I will come and talk about Vampire the Masquerade and the storyteller system and the World of Darkness, which I really like. So, yeah. You just rerunning it, either on stream or off. Oh, you want me to do it as a rerun? I can do that, actually. I don't know how to do that, but they give me the option. They tell me that it is possible. I will also be archiving it to YouTube, right? And yeah, I can post the link. Are you in my Discord? I think you are, right? Because I can post the link in the chat or something. Or I suppose if not, I can ask for permission to poke instead in the writing thing, as opposed to simply modding lurking behind the scenes for Aaron. Yeah, as opposed to, right? That way I can directly answer questions about Vampire the Masquerade, tell you what I like about the system, right? You know, I've also done some LARPing storytelling, so I can talk about that. I can tell you it's a lot more work than doing it for tabletop, and a lot more expensive. It takes a lot more time. I didn't have the time to do it, so I had to quit. But, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So, no, sorry, I meant rereading it again. Oh, yeah, no problem. Absolutely. Absolutely, I'll reread it again. Did you put the changes in the link you already gave me? Because I can check that back. I will do that sometime this evening, if you like. Happy to do it. In the meantime, let's see who's up and running here. I do have the stream manager running on the other computer, because I don't want to interfere with things. And if I go to raid channel, it'll just tell me who's up. And because then I can be lazy. No. It doesn't say Zog's up yet on this. What the hell? Okay. I will reload this page just in case there's an error in the page. I'm changing it in manuscripts, so if you reload, you should see the updates. Okay, perfect. Then yeah, absolutely, I'll go over it again. You bet. Yeah, yeah. One last thing to add about critiques. If somebody really liked your critique and wants you to go over it again to, see how you feel about it afterwards, you probably should do it at least once, right? Just because they value your opinion. You're the one who made the suggestions. They're asking you, right? So, approach it. Okay, Zog's up on your Twitch. That's good to know. This stream manager raid thing just has not been working properly for me. If Zog's up, we'll go see him. By the way, manuscripts is pretty nice. I really like manuscripts too. I intend to do most of my drafting in there from now on, basically. So if I can't figure out how to do the curly quotes thing, then what I'll probably do is copy what I've written into my Word document, change it to curly quotes, and then copy it back out. Because it preserves your formatting for the most part from Word. If you decide to do things in Word and then copy it into documents, it will do that. I think it's amazing. If you're looking for that the stream manager's raid thing, it hasn't worked in a week. I've noticed that. Very, very annoyed. I'm not sure what the heck's going on with that. But in the meantime, have a good afternoon, everybody. Keep writing. And we're going to go raid Zog. Don't forget, the raid shout is prepare to be boarded. We are the Sable's privateers. And we'll see you later. And 3, 2, 1. Long one. And see ya.